All right, we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 30th Litchfield Budget Committee meeting. I will call the meeting to order, and we'll begin tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next up on our agenda, before we get into the heat of it tonight, is public input. I see several members joining us this evening.
Are we doing online first?
We're going to do that right after.
Oh, okay.
All right. Anyone care to address please? If you could just state your name and address, please.
Tom Schofield, 6 Parker Circle. I just wanted to come early on in the budget process to kind of remind you guys politely how much we count on you guys to make these tough decisions. I've been watching the selectmen's meetings, and I've been watching how it seems like the tax cap is now the new starting point. I thought the tax cap was something we were supposed to kind of, that was what we were supposed to stay within. I mean, standing here in front of you tonight, based on what I've watched recently on meetings, if they're not looking $200,000 over the tax cap, they're really close. And they're kicking cans down the road by buying police vehicles and fire vehicles out of this year's budget that they have some extra money. They did the same thing last year. I'm a little annoyed that going to the voting booth all the time and seeing all these warrant articles that have no tax impact, which A, is not true, and B, it's basically because this board is giving them too much money. I don't know if it's because they're underestimating their revenues and they're coming in with revenues that are higher, so then that's like found money, so let's use it. I think that, maybe some more things need to go to warrant article. Maybe less money should be available to spend at the end of the year. Because I think I saw Monday night they bought a police car for a very expensive amount of money, a new fire department command vehicle, and then they're going to take one of the police cars and roll it to be a building inspector's vehicle, which is all wonderful. But I'm not so sure it should be left to just those people to make these decisions. And, if that money's available at the end of the year, maybe some of it should come back to us. Or maybe we should be asked about it. So I just wanted to remind you guys, I want you to give the same scrutiny to these guys, the townwide people, as you do to the school. I know that Kerry's all wound up because they took a couple of lousy $100,000 and took it from transportation because we have a handshake deal and we're supposed to return it. When you add up over the past 5 years, the amount of warrant articles that came on the town side that supposedly had zero tax impact because they're spending leftover money, it trumps the lousy $200,000 that the school didn't give back. So I really think that, the school's a bigger number, so it's easy to attack the school. But if you really did the percentages of the percent of money the school really uses versus what the town just kind of arbitrarily seems to find when they need to find it, I got to tell you, I hope that you guys look close at revenues over the past few years and say they told us we're going to get this and we got this. If you want to take out last year because of COVID, go right ahead. So do it over the last 4 years, pick out that list. I really think that you guys are being, I want to be polite, but you're being way too nice to them. I think the town needs to be held their feet to the fire a little bit. If you look at the percentage of the town budget, it's growing in leaps and bounds. If the school budget grew at the same percentage, you know where we would be? I do, because I'm a numbers guy, but you guys need to know, because that's why I think I voted for every one of you sitting in this room. I voted for you because I'm expecting you guys to watch my dollars. Like one of the budgets that's really annoyed me was the planning board budget, that National Regional Planning doesn't want any more money. But yet every other budget leading up to them was, costs are up. You go to the grocery store, you know how much more that costs. You go to the fuel stop, So my question is National Regional Planning already charging us too much money? How can they absorb? They must be paying their employees more money. Their health insurance must have gone up. All their expenses must have gone up. So even though I'm saying I don't want to spend any money, why is National Regional Planning not going up? If that doesn't send up a red flag when every other budget you're going to hear throughout, because I've been listening to it on the selectmen's meeting, and I'm just one person, but I'm telling you, there's thousands of me watching you guys. And I think some of us are a little annoyed that the school gets so scrutinized over everything. And the town side, again, look at what the budget was. Is it not up a couple of $1 million over the past few years? I mean, again, take percentages to apply those same exact percentages, not one penny more, not one penny left in terms of percentage to the school budget. And where would they be? 30 million by now, 32 million? I mean, I'm just asking you guys to, understand. We're going to hear how road salt went up. Well, it did go up. But, last year we found money for 2 police vehicles for the 2 executives to use. I'm not against that. It's fine. You're going to be looking for a fire truck. Do you realize the newest fire truck you have is a 2003? The next newest is 5 years older than that, and the next year is 5. Go do the math. Any one of you driving a personal vehicle, putting your loved ones in it, that's a 2003. A fire truck is expensive. It's going to cost $700,000. That's the price of one new house in Litchfield. I would like to think that we have the wherewithal in this town to buy the equivalent of one Litchfield house. We need to be protected. These $750,000 homes need to be protected. That fire truck, what happens with this cap and everything, it seems like even if you guys are in favor of some stuff, you're pigeonholed into not being able to support it because it collapses the tax cap. Should the tax cap be raised? Should it be eliminated? I don't know those answers, but you guys can ask those questions. But when they come out of the gate, that when they get applaud because they got down to the tax cap, isn't the word cap mean something? Isn't that what we're striving to be a maximum, not a minimum? So I have a lot more to say, but I'll come back over several meetings. I watch you guys all the time. And I'm not against the town. I think the town does an overall pretty good job. But, when you do the police and fire budget in one night and you're adjourning at 9 o'clock, how can you do millions and millions of dollars and have no freaking questions? I don't get it. How is that? Are they dumping it on you guys to have the questions so you guys look like the bad guys? And based on how much money's left at the end of the year, you're not being bad enough, guys, because there's too much. There's no tax impact on warrant and going to the booth. Of course it's a tax impact. If we didn't spend it, it will come back to us. So it's not an increase, but it's certainly not zero impact yet. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And, these 2 eyes will be watching all of yours.
Thank you, Mr. Schofield.
Thank you.
Any other public input this evening? All right, there's a second public input at the end of tonight's meeting, so we'll pick it up back then. Next up in our agenda, we do have remote participation this evening by Mr. Hayes. So as discussed last week at September 23rd, we will need to take a vote to allow or deny Mr. Hayes' participation this evening. Any questions?
Nope.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So made.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Douglas and a second by Mr. Sun. Questions? Mr. Sun?
Yes.
Ms. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Aye.
I am an aye.
Yes.
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 Mr. Taylor, yes.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens is yes.
Yes.
Mr. Barker's yes. All right, and that passes 8-0-0. Okay, fantastic. Mr. Hayes, per the
Yes.
requirements that we laid out last week, if you could just share who's with you this evening, as well as your reason for being remote, please.
Yes, there is nobody with me, and my concern is I have not been vaccinated against COVID-19 or the Delta variant.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine right now.
Fantastic. Mr. Hayes did send a note this morning, which I'm going to read in correspondence here momentarily. If everyone could just be considerate and when speaking to speak up a little bit louder, especially for us behind masks, it is a little bit difficult to hear through the WebEx. Okay.
Point of reference, Mr. Chairman, it should
Yes.
be 801, the vote to allow.
801. Thank you. Yeah. That's
Yes to abstain.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Any changes to tonight's agenda? All right. Hearing none. Correspondence. We did have a little bit of correspondence. I did circulate this to Mr. Sullivan as well. For last Friday, September 24th, we had our town budget report that was circulated. On September 27th, Town Administrator Brown confirmed the next Capital Improvement Planning Committee meeting will be actually scheduled next Monday, the 4th. September 29th, Mr. Taylor received an email about wedding venue zoning. Not sure why that was sent to the Budget Committee, but nevertheless, that was forwarded to Town Administrator Brown. Also on September 29th, Mr. Brown requested to know who would like a paper copy of tonight's budget. I think we have that for everyone who wanted one. Yes? Okay, fantastic. And then this morning, Mr. Hayes sent a note asking if we could just speak up, and especially for us behind masks. Okay? Fantastic. Next up is town business and general updates. Mr. Leary?
You want to do the acceptance of minutes first, or?
Oh, sure. Yes, we did have the acceptance of minutes. I was assuming we're not going to vote on them tonight because I just sent them this
Okay.
morning, but we did have September 23rd minutes.
I'd like to table them since I didn't have a chance to read them either, but that's just me.
Okay.
Then we'll move on.
Next meeting, September 23rd. All right, Mr. Leary.
All right, town business. Selectmen met Monday night. Steve Lieber and Cassidy Brennan from Affinity LED Lighting to go over the plan for the LED lights in the town. And we did mention, Ms. Stevens, the soft lighting, and they said they use soft lights. They're very soft.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
There's not much glare from them as compared to normal LEDs. So we voted to move forward and let them start presenting what they want to do. They represent over 60 towns in New Hampshire and 30 in Maine they've done. So they're well experienced. And we asked if the school was interested, and Troy said he reached out and they were. And the other big thing from Monday was the PFO update from the New Hampshire DES. And we got a good report from the auditors.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Leary? All right, I'll turn it over to Town Administrator Brown. We did circulate the agenda for the next 3 meetings. Hopefully everyone has that as a part of tonight's agenda. I think that's still the plan, but Mr. Brown.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, good evening. Here we are again. You know, it's a good break. I hope everyone had a great summer. I just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware that we start our budget process right around mid-July. And coming off, that town vote in March, really just starting to settle into our budgets. It's a difficult process, and we do our best that we can each year. And the department heads have done a terrific job going through their budgets. We asked them to go back and take a look at each line, make sure that the money that's requested is needed. It's part of their operating budget. But it puts us in a position that, as we're putting together our budget in July and August and trying to present to the Board of Selectmen the end of August and in September, that there's a lot of items that we don't know yet. So I just wanted to just touch on that, make you aware. We have this conversation every year, but just wanted to remind everyone. But just point out that our tax rate isn't even set right yet. So a lot of things that we do trying to benchmark against last year and what we're proposing this year is based on that tax rate that's established by the DRA this coming fall. Hopefully that will be done in mid-October. Sometimes it's dragged out, into November, and then we've had some years which can get into the tax bill can go out late, and we don't like that, but it can go into December as well. But we're going to be meeting with our fire chief and discussing a new employment contract. That employment contract expires in December of this year. So that is still a task that the Board of Selectmen will be working on, and we'll keep you up to date on progress there. Electric rates, we work with the Nashua Regional Planning Commission. They have about 20 other towns and school districts that we all participate, and we put together all of our demands and we put it out there in the market. That process has just started, so the actual energy rates, we expect to receive those probably in about 30 days. It could be longer. We'll see what happens when. I think we all know the energy market's a little crazy right now, and sometimes when we go out for that initial proposal, we have to reassess and go out on the market again. The fire hydrant rates, as you all know, Penachuk is in the process of petitioning the PUC for new rates. That process is really sort of wrapping up behind the scenes. I'm aware of what's going on, but we don't know exactly when all the parties come together if there could be agreement. But the water rates most likely will be going up. I think if you're on water right now, you've seen an interim rate put in place. We've been focusing a lot on the fire hydrant protection fees, And I think in a budget, you know, I've projected a conservative decrease there, but we'll see how this turns out. Health insurance, dental insurance, our property liability, workers' comp, unemployment, all those insurance policies. The one that, you know, I'm always concerned about is health insurance. The next one is the workers' comp. But those rates, we won't receive those rates. Most likely the health insurance will come end of October, sometime in November. So it makes it difficult for the town review process because you guys start reviewing, you're looking at, you know, the bottom line, and we think we've got a bottom line where everyone's, you know, in agreement. And then, you know, it's possible that we could get a substantial increase. We did change health insurance providers a few years ago, and we've had some pretty good stable rates. So with that, I don't have a formal presentation. I think we just, at this point in time, just really jump into it. Unless you have any questions.
I see an anonymous fox in your 2022 budget. That's somebody's name. Seriously.
In my, yeah.
Is there data security concerns that we need to be thinking about here? That's you?
No, it's just a public number that's.
I think that's just, you mean up there is
Yeah.
Okay.
a
Thank
little
you.
circle of,
Yeah.
oh, the fox. Fox is always there. It's always watching. Sometimes they're there, midnight. So I think the first on the agenda is town meeting.
Town meeting. We have 4130.30 town meeting to start us off.
So, you know, the easiest thing for me to do is probably quickly just do a summary of the bottom line and let you know that this year, 2022, the department, we're proposing $12,700. This represents an increase of $3,684. Really, the drivers that cause the increases is the number of elections that we have. So this year we'll have our deliberative session, and then we have 3 elections where we'll, you know, the town clerk, the moderator, the ballot clerks will all be working those elections. So each year, depending on the number of elections, those numbers get adjusted. And really, everything's driven by the 3 election costs for the year.
Okay. Any questions on 4130.30 town meeting from the committee?
Not yet. Not tonight, anyway.
Okay.
I have one question on line 740.
Yes.
The jump from 2020 actual of 364 to 1,000 seems to be a round number, and then also the same for 2021, 2022 versus the number of elections we would have. So I would expect that would fluctuate more, wouldn't it?
Each year, you know, our town clerk, tax collector is here, and she can jump in as well, Terry. But one of the things that did happen last year, we had the COVID funds, and we were able to purchase a lot of our materials and supplies through that, the FEMA and the COVID funding. But each year we carry $1,000, and it's there for every single year. There's a new demand for something. We'll lose a couple booths. We'll need a new table. We've had the ballot collection boxes disappear. So traditionally we've budgeted $1,000 to capture all those miscellaneous items that come up. And
What do we usually see as far as like utilization of all the booths? I mean, there's a lot of booths that get put in the Campbell gym. Do we get to the point where is the bottleneck at the desk checking in, or is the bottleneck that there's just no booths available?
It could be that they're waiting for booths. We are required by statute to have a certain number of booths there. I did this year with this, and we didn't purchase more booths. This year I purchased, a lot of people sit down at the tables, so we utilized the tables more, and we bought some dividers, which are considered booths for the state as well. So, and they're cheaper than what the other booths are.
Any other questions? Mr. Hayes?
I'm sorry, I heard none of that.
Okay. Yeah. The tax collector was just providing the committee with an update on Mr. Taylor's question and how the town utilizes booths with dividers as a way for serving the community, for lack of a better term. I'm sure I didn't do that justice, but I tried. And we now set up a mic back there too, so that should help, right? Okay, we're good. All right, any other questions on town meeting before we shift gears to town clerk? All right, we'll move forward to town clerk 4140.10.
All right, just a quick reminder for the members that have gone through the budget process in the previous years. We have two budgets, the town clerk and the tax collector. So what we do for the wages and the benefits, we split those costs 50%. So you'll see, for the town clerk, the deputy, the clerk, any of the health insurance agencies, they're all represented here, 50% of the increased costs. So it's just important to point that out. We've had some changes in this department. We've had, which has caused some changes in salary, and primarily the big increase here is through health insurance. So we've had a change in the different plans that were elected versus the person that was there once before. So any of the increases that you see as a result of our performance review. We have an annual performance review process. This year, the selectmen allowed up to 3%, which was the union agreed, adjustment for the union. So what you see there, any increases of salary as a result of that review that was done in July and put into effect in July of this year. So that the insurance policies in the past, sometimes I'll do an estimate and say, I'm going to assume that health insurance is going to go up 8%. I decided not to make those adjustments this year. I just held the cost at the current rate and what the employees are currently enrolled in. We do sometimes can have some changes when we do our open enrollment in November, but most cases, what you see here right now is going to be that enrollment.
So then when we talk tax cap later, we're saying that it could potentially be much higher because you're carrying today's health rates, not the anticipated ones.
So if the rates come in at an increase,
Likely not going down.
they most likely won't go down, then the bottom line of the budget will increase, which could definitely
Right. So when I'm
increase.
looking at this and I see your health care numbers, I should anticipate that that's not quite what I'll see in a couple months.
That's correct.
Well, and you had stated at the beginning.
We're
But
holding it.
yeah, no, we've gone back and forth in the past. Sometimes the number is the plus 8 to 10%.
I didn't do
sometimes
that
it's
this
not.
year, and we're just budgeting 2021 rates.
Right. And so I'm just saying, because I jumped first to the tax cap rate to see
Where we're at.
where we're at, and just in my mind that to know that number is actually even higher because it doesn't factor in insurance increases.
If
Okay.
the rates increase.
So or the number on the spreadsheet understates where we will fall. Gotcha. Just want to make sure I'm.
I think it's a safe assumption that the tax cap rate now, if that's one of the benchmarks you want to look at as you're reviewing and improving the budget, that we're about 60,000 over the tax cap. And when you have an increase in health insurance rates and the workers' comp rates, that will drive that 60,000 number up to, whatever, 75, 80, 90.
And to put Mr. Schofield at ease, I'm not trying to get to the tax cap. I just, in my mind, I need to know where I'm looking to begin with. Otherwise,
I think it's important to point it out.
Yeah.
When you look at the tax cap number now, that's one of the benchmarks that we use
Right.
when we're putting this together and formulating it. As long as that number is definitely going to be moving.
Right. Probably in the wrong direction.
Madam
Excellent.
Chair, I have a question around the postage increase. Can we just better understand what the $2,500 increase on that one?
So we took a look at this line. A couple things. The postage actually increased this August. So and we took a look at the line. We're pretty confident that we're purchasing boxes which are already pre-stamped. So we buy the envelope and the postage all in one transaction. We're looking at about 18 boxes this year. And I think in the past, I don't want to speak for Terry, but in the past, we have done, some of this work was done outside, and then we brought it inside, and we just, Terry has seen an increase in the mailing because of COVID and just customer service. But Terry, you can
Yes.
do a lot
So-
better job, again, explaining what's going on.
With
And
with
if you
the
could just get closer to the microphone so we can hear.
Yes.
Thank you.
So with the postage, I'm gonna move this up here. The postage went up in August, and then we have a lot more people that are doing their registrations online, or they're doing their registrations through the mail. And the renewals that we sent out, so we did a little sheet of the total renewals for April that we sent out. We send out 468 renewals to everybody in the mail. In those renewals, we charge $1 for postage and for the envelopes. When they do them online, we process everything here in the office, and we have to mail those back out to them. So April, for instance, we mailed out 181 back out just online. That doesn't include what people mailed into us and we mailed back. We also did vital records that were online. There were 18 vital records. We mailed those out. People do their dog. There were 748 dogs that were done online this year. We have to mail those out as well. We do charge them. There's $1 to do the mail out for each dog. There's $1 to do the mail out for vital records. So we're kind of getting that back, but in the meantime, we still have to pay the postage, and we also mail all the work that we do in the office during the week. We send one big envelope up to the state, which is about $8-9 a week that we mail out to them. So there's other. Plus, we had the absentee ballots. I was trying to forget about those, but we have absentee ballots that we mail out. That a lot of our costs, though, with the postage between the registrations, the dogs, the vital records, that stuff, we do recoup some of that money. We don't recoup anything with registrations that come back to us that in the mail. We mail those back out. There's no, we don't collect anything for those, but everything else we do.
So I guess one question would be then, to put some people's minds at ease, would it be difficult to show that revenue line of this is how much we collect through mailing so we can offset it? Because obviously this is the expense portion of the budget. There's going to be the revenue side.
Right.
So I presume that it shows up somewhere over there. But if we could see it side by side, like if you could, would it be possible to say, this is what our mailings cost, but this is what we recovered through user fees?
So like I said, what we did with these, we did April, May, June, up until November. We just did November's this week. And out of those, the online registrations, they're all paying $1 to mail it back. The dogs, we got the ones that we did online. So any of the dogs basically that we did, unless they came into the office, any dog registration that we did, we actually charged $1 for the mailing. So if anything went out in the mail, you know what I mean? We charge that. We could, I don't know. We can definitely do the online. Like I said, we have the calculations for the online that we did. But it's
Probably all mixed in, right?
it is pretty much. We're doing sheets now. We keep better track with these new sheets that actually Jennifer made up, that they go through and they write every day how many registrations they've done, how many notary services. So we have a sheet and they write everything on there, and we can probably include
You know what I mean? Include that on there to show what.
The next time, when we meet next year, then maybe we can have the data then.
Yep, definitely.
But I do think it would be nice to be able to say, hey, yeah, our postage went up however much, but we covered that through the user fees.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but it'd be interesting data.
Right. So that you're not just thinking that this is just postage going out, because it isn't.
Right.
There is revenue coming in on these registrations and on dog licenses.
Right.
They're actually paying for the postage.
Right. And that's
So-
just on a different sheet that's not next to this.
Exactly. You just don't see it on these. So, right.
I do think Terry and her staff spent some time in this line because we saw that $2,480 increase. And they went back and pulled all the invoices, calculated what the postage increase would be. And I think it's important to point out that in 2020, the actual cost for the department was $6,066. That was the actual. And we budgeted $4,000. So you have a $2,400 increase, but I'm not sure if the $4,000 figure was accurate. So I'm pretty confident that we the 18 boxes, and then each year we'll have to adjust for the postage increase.
Right.
There was also a postage increase in January last year. So there was one in January and then there was another one in August this year. So we did have the 2 increases in that 1 year as well.
All right. Buy those forever stamps, I guess, is the message here. All right. Mr. Hayes, any questions?
No, no questions.
I had a question actually.
Please.
Under line 120, wages for clerk, there is a link to a part-time option. Am I looking at the right thing?
You are.
Okay.
I see it well. I see it here too.
Can you just explain why that's there? And
So Terry has come to the Board of Selectmen and has presented some ideas on changing some of the staffing that we currently have and creating 2 part-time positions instead of having that one sort of the 35-hour, which could be considered full-time, I guess. But changing that position, I guess it would be the elimination of that position and creating 2 part-time positions.
does that position have benefits? The 35 hours a week?
So that position currently, the person holding that position has been in that position for a very long time. I forget, almost 28 years,
30 years.
almost 30 years. So at this point in time, the Board of Selectmen, just due to the fact that, that this person has served this town for that many years, they're not entertaining the position right now.
Oh, I see.
But it's on the table, and if there was any changes in the department, I think then that proposal would definitely be coming back to the board for discussion.
Okay. So does that employee receive benefits? Are there benefits tied to
Yes.
that employee? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on town clerk?
One line 811, seminars, conventions is either that conference or the workshops mandatory in order to maintain certification in order to do the role?
Yes.
All right. Final questions? All right, we'll close out 4140 and move into tax collection 4150.
So again, I won't repeat all my words, but you have a 50% representation here of what we just talked about in terms of salaries and benefits. And so really, nothing substantial here for increases. The bottom line is an increase of $11,184. And again, pretty much driven by the change in the employee and the health insurance being the primary driver here. Just so for people to understand, you had a person that was on a single health plan and we had a change to a family.
When are we up for revisiting our health insurance and the plans that are offered to the town?
I don't know if we're
Is that
we
a contract or?
it's something that, you know, it can be visited, but it is something that you need to sit down with the union and have an agreement.
But we only have
to be able
one-
to make that change.
So is the changes to all the other employees tied to the union discussion? Because these are non-union employees. I
We're
think-
such a small pool that, you know, to break off our police department employees and have our small, you know, it just wouldn't be,
So-
wouldn't be feasible.
So basically whatever the police department negotiates is what everybody gets.
No, I'm just saying that, that if we were going to change plans and carriers, it is something that you need to make sure that the union is in agreement, because they're going to be looking at the plan and looking at the benefits they currently have. And if they're gaining or losing, you cannot just go out and change plans.
I guess I'm just confused though, because these aren't union employees. So what union is there to buy into that decision?
Well, the question was, in summary, is the town looking to change its health carrier? And I guess my answer is at this time, no. We just made that change, I think, just over 2 years ago, and everyone, and the price has been pretty stable. We were looking at 15, 18% jumps.
I remember.
And we did a lot of work making the transition a couple of years ago, and we've had some pretty good stable rates. Currently, right now, we are in the health trust, which is, you know, we're pooled in with a bunch of other towns that have 100 employees or less. So we collectively go out to the market, pool all of our employees together, and they put, you know, it out there on the market to get the best price they can. And we've got a good health insurance plan, and we've seen the last couple of years some good stability. But if we were to change the plan, and we have the right to do it, it's just that you would need to make sure that the union was in agreement with it.
Yeah, and I
So
understand.
the non-union employees, yeah, they don't, but for me to change the plan, which we have everyone, we're all grouped in it, I need to make sure the union would be in agreement with it.
I understand it's a lengthy process to do that as well, right? And
It's
in keeping it conversational, which is really the spirit of it.
Right.
It's always good to do a benchmark. If it's been a few years, 2-3 years, it's good just to reevaluate and get that level. Maybe there is a better valued plan out there that we just don't know about yet, right?
No, I just wanted to clarify the process because the reference to the union and they're not, but if you do one
the union
big
doesn't
pool-
control it. My only reference was that if we were to find this great plan that was, you know, 50% cheaper,
Right.
we would not be able to transfer the union employees unless they were in agreement with it.
Right.
Understood.
Other updates for 4150.
I
That
have-
covers the main
I have a question about it.
1,000. Sure, please.
Line 321, property title research. Do we get revenue for anybody that requests a property title?
So what that is when we are doing leaning and deeding, we have a search company that we are required to search to make sure whatever the lien, you know, so we're notifying the right people. We do charge for that. If somebody goes to lien, there is a fee, which we keep up with the fee schedule. I think it's like $19.50. Once they, you know, get those notices, that $19.50 goes on there and they do get charged for that. So that's one of those things where we are getting revenue, but we are paying out for the searches.
We'll open it up for other questions on 4150. Mr. Hayes?
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
All right. We'll switch gears into sanitation administration, 4321.10, please.
All right. I think, not sure if he was able to get on, but Dave Mellon, are you with us?
I'm here.
Ah, there he is. Okay. Thank you, Dave, for joining. So Dave is a much larger budget, very busy department, as we all know. We have,
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
So going through salaries, you'll see that we have some increases there. The first one is a facility manager, 2,246. And that again is a direct result of the annual performance review that was done in July. And then line number 120, you have an increase of 11,274. This is represents the performance reviews that we did. It also represents the fact that we've had to increase our hours down at the facility by 6 hours a week. And we've also had to make some adjustments to wages. As you can see, the hourly rate that some of the employees receive. And I think you probably have heard a lot out there about the cost of labor. So we had to take a couple positions and just tweak their hourly rate a little bit. It still gets them, at that market where people are still struggling, hiring staff. But the employees were very appreciative of us recognizing that they were underpaid when they looked at the market. So those are two areas of increases that in your salaries, fairly large there.
Were those, just a question if I may, were those increases reflected in this current year's budget as well? Or is this going forward with next year? I know with the budget that we're looking at is going forward next year, but was there an impact to this year's budget as well?
Well, they would have been this. So any adjustment that we made was on July of the 2021 budget. So you only see half the cost.
Thank you.
Why is health insurance going down?
We had a change in coverage. So
Quick question, Troy, on the additional hours. It was my understanding that the additional hours were kicked in because of COVID, and then obviously the throughput of the facility went down because you had to go with the every other parking spot. Is it possible to revisit now that the facility can utilize every parking spot to reduce that 6 hours to the public and go back to the way it was before COVID?
Dave, you want to try to address your hours of operation and the demand that you have down at the facility?
We noticed opening at 12 o'clock on Wednesday that we were having a larger volume come through on Wednesday at 12, between 12 and 3. So we decided to keep those hours based on that.
The Wednesday, expanding the hours on Wednesday has been well received by the residents. In fact, I was down there Wednesday for some time, and I just couldn't believe the amount of traffic coming in consistently, just constant flow of traffic in and out, all of it. So I really don't see the demand decreasing even post-COVID. I think the plan is to continue to operate with these additional hours.
What have we seen as far as a population increase as far as housing over the last couple of years? Is that a component of?
Well, you had that,
the additional
had that
people?
Weatherstone development, which that's been, just wrapped up. We just issued the final CO on the last house. You had the Firefly one go up real quick. And then you've got, a house going up here and there. And what was the other one?
Autumn Circle.
In the Autumn Circle development a couple of years ago. So, yeah. And just demand. I mean, is people generating a lot of waste. Just, I know that Dave's talking about just the increased volume in his paper and cardboard for just online purchasing is amazing. And that's bulky items. And people want it out of their garage. They don't want it laying around.
Okay. One other question as well. I brought it up last year. Has there been any thought around the fact that the construction material people can go in and dump? It's obviously a large line item under here. Has the department or the town looked at the possibility of monetizing that capability so that way we don't have, somebody that's a general contractor that's coming in to work for somebody that can go ahead and cut the dumpster cost by just going ahead and utilizing our dump.
Well, Dave, we don't have, Dave monitors any type of construction activity. But it's more on the honor system, I would say, and just the basic knowledge of our staff, knowing the contractors that are in town. But is there a formal permitting process that, where someone were to come in with some debris, some roofing materials, some sheetrock, some insulation, and that they need to have some kind of permit or proof that, that this is coming from a construction site here in Litchfield and that a building permit's been issued? We don't have that type of formal process in place.
This particular sheet doesn't go back far enough. Obviously, 2020 is where we saw that big spike based on people cleaning out basements during COVID. But I think if I remember correctly, we went from somewhere around 60, 70, maybe 80,000, and now we're up to 125. I mean, at some point, those costs can't continue to keep rising like crazy without some sort of offset somewhere. And my fear is that, sure, it gets distributed out to the taxpayers, but there's probably contractors that are making additional profit based on the fact that they can utilize the dump.
So I was actually going to ask a question about those particular items, because I went back and I was looking at 2021, and if I'm looking at this correctly, it looks like our number of hauls for solid waste are projected to be the same, and demo material is projected about 20 more, but the cost per haul actually is down in the 2022 budget. So I'm just wondering where the extra increase is that based on the tonnage and the cost associated with the tonnage? I'm just trying to understand that increase.
So it would be driven by, if you have that info link there that gives you the 12-month run rate. So we look back 12 months, and that's how we generate our tonnage estimate. We did just go out to bid. Well, we negotiated a new contract with Waste Management, which resulted in a decrease in the hauling costs and the tipping fees for currently in this budget, and then everything builds upon itself each year. I think it's going to have a 3% increase in 2023, Dave? Is it 3% per year?
That's correct.
Yeah. So even though our cost went down, our tonnage estimates, both C&D and solid waste, is up.
Good. So this line represents a 32,000 and change increase, predominantly driven by the demolition material as discussed. Any questions on 4321?
Where does yard waste land in here?
So we all the leaves, brush, grass clippings, those are all received at our facility, and we compost them, or we used to burn the brush, but we're going to be changing that process to once or twice a year where we'll actually chip it.
Is there a cost?
There's no cost to bring your yard waste or brush.
And there's no cost for the dump to chip that.
So that is going to be an area that Dave and I, because of environmental issues, really, and just really best management practices, we've decided to stop burning brush. So as of right now, we're looking at whether or not we're going to have a small fee for people to come in if they have a load of brush on a trailer or a pickup truck. If there's going to be a fee for that, or if we're going to, use some of the recycling revenues that we generate from the sale of our aluminum cans or cardboard or paper, and try to offset the cost of the chipping. But we don't know exactly what we've met with a commercial chipper that can come in and pretty much chip a pile on a full day. They come in with what they call a tub grinder and a grapple hook, and you just put stuff in the tub and it goes like this and it comes out chips.
Are
Very detailed.
But we don't know. Yeah, it's called it's a tub grinder. It's pretty amazing. But we don't know if it's going to be a 2-day operation, a full day. So it's going to be a new process for us.
Okay, but that wouldn't be in this next year.
It would. It's no.
Okay. So then, and you had mentioned the revenue from recyclables. Does that mean that the recyclable disposal, is that offset by those revenues, or is there more revenue than that $800?
So we have a revolving fund that, because the market of recyclables goes up and down. One year, you're paying money to get rid of aluminum cans. Another year, they're giving us money, but then you lose money, on I'll say cardboard paper, but now cardboard's back up. So what we have is a revolving fund that we established a few years ago. When people come in and they pay a fee for the disposal of those recyclable goods, it goes into a fund, and then we pay out for the disposal costs. It's really kind of cash in, cash out fund.
Okay, so this is just the expense side of it, sort of like the postage line we were talking about earlier.
Which line are you looking at?
The $695 recyclables direct disposal.
Oh, this one here is okay. So that line right there is actually for concrete
Oh, I see.
and
Okay.
asphalt. It's a kind of a specialty. I made bricks, and there's I don't think there's a fee. Dave, do you charge for the concrete and asphalt?
No, we don't.
Okay, so it's a small line item that you never know one year if you're going to have some. I mean, every year you're going to have people bringing some bricks and stuff in with you, but it pretty much, we're able to bring it to Continental, and they're able to crush it up and use it as an aggregate material.
Yeah, they charge $6 a ton to reprocess it, and that was come out of our line $695.
Okay. So there is no
Charge us
line,
too.
I guess, for recyclables because you said it was cash in,
Yeah.
cash out.
Truck
Is that what you mean?
expenses, couldn't
Okay,
get it.
I understand that. Thank you.
So they come and get it.
So Troy, did I hear you say that you guys are exploring and then at that point charging per brush run? So somebody shows up with a trailer of brush.
So Dave and I have had that conversation. I personally don't think it's something that the residents would embrace. And so Dave and I are not at the point right now where we've decided to bring that concept forward to the Board of Selectmen. Again, every time
I
that
would not like that.
If we do bring it to the selectmen,
If you're using it, then at that point, you know what? If you lived in Manchester, you'd have to pay for it. I mean, at some point, there needs to be a user fee for using these items. I mean, the budget numbers keep going up
But
and
we
up and
are
up.
paying taxes, right?
So I do
mean,
have an idea.
But people don't want to pay even more taxes, and if the certain line items keep going up and up and up and
Right.
up, sooner or later you have to finally start charging the user.
So I actually have an idea, and I'm sure Troy's over there cringing because every time I have an idea, it causes more work. So we've expanded services and we're as a result of COVID, and we're anticipating potentially keeping those. Could we figure out what the cost of that is and then put it forward as, say, a warrant article? Because if people want the expanded hours, they can vote yes and roll it into the budget. If people say, no, I'm actually okay and will rearrange my life around the old schedule, they have that option as opposed to making the choice for them.
What's the cost of the 6 hours difference? The actual cost. You don't have to know that tonight.
No, I'm
You
just
know what I
saying-
mean?
we'd have to go back and do the math, but we could.
That way people have an understanding of, okay, yes, the budget's gone up, but it's because we're offering expanded services. Do you want it or not? Me, I mean, I don't know that I care. I could rearrange my life, but maybe other people can't. So is there people can decide, is that the value they want to pay for, or they can vote against it. But at least the people then have the control and the ability to say, you know what, put the brakes on it. This is something where I'd like to say, hold the line, spend somewhere else. Or, no, you know what, I actually want to pay for that. But right now, we're making the decision instead of allowing people to make that choice. So I would encourage the consideration of figuring out the cost impact of expanding services and giving the people the choice. But that just in the fact that we know we have a tax cap, we know we're already over it. Here's a way to say, how far do you want to go over the tax cap? Yes, vote yes. If you don't, we go back to the old service hours. You lived with them before. And it's just an idea as to helping people have a direct say on how the budget increases or doesn't.
All right. I think the point is taken. Any other questions on 4321? Hearing none. Mr. Brown, you're up. 4311 road agent. Mr. Brown and Mr. Brown.
Yeah, which
I knew which one.
Yeah. Okay, so the road agent. Let's see. We have electricity, which again, if you look at you click on the red font letters, you'll see a spreadsheet where we do our 12-month calculations. We average it out. Same with the propane heat. So electricity, I was trying to do a 3% increase based on, I believe Eversource is going to be having some increases in the distribution costs. And so I just did a 3% over last year total price. But that number will be adjusted. And hopefully we'll have a pretty good estimate as what our new energy costs will be. And sometimes the consultant can, based on our current demand, can calculate both the distribution costs and energy costs. So propane, gas, the school department did just secure a contract. We're changing vendors, and the cost increased. I forget where we were, $1.33. We were $1.33 per gallon last year. We're now changing vendors. I would assume that last year's vendor's price was higher. So we're seeing an increase to $1.85 per gallon this year in propane.
So I don't know off the top of my head, but I do see the 2020 expense for stormwater construction, 310. Where do we stand on that today? Because I remember this number when it was much higher. We had a hard time nailing down what a good number is to carry. So I'm curious as to whether or not we're zeroing in on an actual number or.
So a lot of the costs you'll see the actual expense in 2020 was close to $10,000, and I can tell you that most of that cost was directly related to stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
The stormwater management permit that we have, it's an EPA mandate. Wherein it's a 5-year permit. So literally the EPA considers it as a permit to be able to discharge water that we collect in our stormwater system. And to be able to collect that and discharge it, you need to have a permit with the EPA. This has been going on since 2003. There was a new permit that was issued in 2017, and that's the permit rules that we're following. We're in year 4 of that permit. There are certain requirements each year, and so and a lot of it's due with mapping our infrastructure and developing different ordinances and policies. Going out in the field, the engineers, they're trained and they know how to go out in the field and collect the water samples. And they have a field analysis kit that's out there, and they'll collect the samples, test the water, and then certain chain of custody will occur for the samples that need to go to the laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, right now it looks like the cost is, again, I've asked for an updated proposal for 2022, and it should be coming in soon, but I'm anticipating that it's going to be right around that $10,000 mark.
All right. So just as I'm looking at ways to narrow down, I mean, that just might be one of the lines I look at.
When you get 2 years from now, the permit will be done and the extra work. Every single year, there's more requirements and engineering work and mapping. When you get to the end of this permit,
Mhm.
if the EPA doesn't renew the permit, then it will sort of be there and status quo, and you could see that cost come down until the new permit is issued. And a lot of times that permit issuance is, from my experience, is delayed because there's a lot of back and forth politics that go on for a couple of years.
Yep.
So during that interim period, you could see that $10,000 cost go away.
I'm not saying necessarily go away. I'm just saying bring the line more in line with what it actually costs. So if it actually costs 10 grand, then I'm not going to budget
Oh, yeah.
15.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. That's all.
Okay.
I mean, if you're willing to let me take all 10, I'll take 10.
Questions on the road agent budget 4311? Mr. Hayes.
No questions.
All right, sir. Thank you. We'll shift gears and move into road maintenance 4312.
Troy, question on line 380. The
Back to road agent?
no, road maintenance. Sorry.
Okay.
The almost double price increase for the contract with town hall, police station, and new
For the
fire
parking
station.
lot.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good question. And we've carried that, I believe, for 2 years, the $12,000 figure. And it should have been adjusted. We just actually approved a contract. The cost was $19,000 this year.
Sure.
And the cost for 2022 will be $23,000. So that's to do this town office, police station, and the fire station.
Is that a flat fee or is that based on?
It's a fixed fee, not per storm.
Are we?
But basically, it's the contract. Mr. Brown can explain it better than me, but the contractor is making a substantial commitment where they're actually leaving a piece of equipment here, and they guarantee, that equipment's here. It's available at any moment when the snow starts. And because of the fire station, police station, we really need to, stay on top of the snow removal. And we got customers coming in and out of the building throughout the storm event too. So even after hours, because of police and fire, we need to keep the accumulation down to, I think the goal is, try to keep it as bare as possible. But after 1 inch, is it, Kevin? Is he coming out?
Yeah, well, he'll come out at any time whenever I call him, so.
Do the main roads get plowed that often? Every morning?
No.
They get stuck at the end of my street. They definitely don't get plowed that often.
Well, I'm just wondering, do we really need to, if they're just gonna drive out onto a road that's got 2 inches of snow on it,
In those big, massive machines.
then is there,
Well,
do we really need it to
depends.
be
If they're gonna
so
come
on
out,
top
he'll
of it?
come out with a pickup truck. He keeps a backhoe with a large pusher on site 24/7, throughout the contracted period. He'll come up here with his pickup truck if it's just a light snow, but he'll always be here. It'll always be open for police and fire. Just because the emergency access is needed, you have to keep it open. He also salts and keeps it wet, keeps the ice down. So it's a dedicated piece of equipment for this facility.
No, I appreciate that, putting the focus on the emergency services, but if they're gonna go drive, 50 feet onto a road that is,
Or nobody can get here anyway because
Right,
the
that
roads
is-
are blocked.
is it so important that the parking lot is that well maintained?
You're saying if the roads
I'm
aren't
just-
plowed once they get out of the parking lot?
I think they're coming, if you're a firefighter and responding at, who knows what hour and in a storm, I understand you got the road conditions, but, coming into the parking lot, you've got multiple vehicles maybe coming from different directions into the parking lot because they've all been called. And
Yep.
so you want safe conditions for those vehicles arriving. And then, of course, they're getting out of their vehicle, probably moving at a fast pace to get into the building, and you know, it's an emergency response. You
Okay.
don't want accidents happening in the parking lot, and we don't want anyone tripping and falling, getting injured.
Back to your question, yes, I mean, we try and keep the roads as clear as possible, but with 163 road miles, you know what I mean? We don't put as much, we're not going up and down the road as much as you are in the parking lot, but we're absolutely trying with 16 pieces of equipment.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that as a criticism.
No, I-
To the
I-
reference,
okay.
but,
Just in case you did.
But I appreciate, no, I appreciate, you know, everything you guys do. And I understand that better too. If you're right, if coming in last minute, all the firefighters coming in at once, all different directions, that makes sense.
All right, so I know we jumped right into questions here. This line is up 90,166. Obviously, the elephant in the budget here is salt, which appears to be significantly up in the tonnage cost. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, so you've heard us in the past. Every year we say that we like to budget 1,800 tons for salt. We'd like to keep that number consistent, and you deal with whatever the price is going to be. So unfortunately, we had a substantial increase, about 45%, and the state, this is a state bid price, it is going to be $72 a ton this year. So that resulted in an increase. You can see there at 45,500. Now, just want to point out that the budget committee did make an adjustment on this line item. So it was reduced, just a blanket reduction. I may have been $10,000. I'm not sure. I think it was. So the math, if you took 1,800 tons last year, multiplied by whatever we were paying,
49.50 in the last year.
$49.50. So it wouldn't work out, but that's because you did a blanket cut of $10,000 on this line.
How many tons are in the shed right now?
Approximately 300.
Oh, so we're pretty out.
I'm sorry.
So
Pretty
we're
low.
we've depleted our store. Sometimes we go into the
Yeah, but
winter with
we
like,
also-
we
we
wasn't so
also
bad.
have budget. We still have money in the budget. Yeah, so that's just for November, December. Well, hopefully November, December, not October.
We've done that before. Let's not do that again.
Uh,
I don't like those Halloween snowstorms.
No, I know. Listen, snow's a four-letter word. You know, we're right where we should be to start. You know, I do have another shed that I will fill prior to the end of October, but of course it's going to be at $72 rather than the $49.50.
How much usage does it get from taxpayer or residents during the winter? Because I know there's always on.
Nothing appreciable.
Okay, yeah, because
No, I mean, you know, Dave takes a bucket every 2 weeks, maybe over, and people come and fill up 5-gallon pails. I might have some people come through, but nothing appreciable.
okay.
And it's important to put, I always forget to mention this, that the 1,800 is the gross amount. The school will use our salt, and we do track it, and we bill them back for that. But the 1,800 is gross, so it does include usage for the school. The school contractor will come up and has complete access to the
Well,
salt.
I'm not questioning the quantity. My heart hurts at the unit
No,
cost.
I think it's important because I always forget to mention that out of that 1,800, some of that is for the school's part.
So that's good to recognize because like we did other stuff, expenses and revenues, but again, like you said, the driving cost is the unit cost, and that hurts when it was $49.50 in the last budget. Now it's $72.
Is there another salt guy?
Unfortunately,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's three different names. They're all owned by the same company.
Ah, okay.
The reality is, this is where we are this year. I mean, you have 500,000 containers in the middle of the ocean. We can't get salt for a reasonable price. This year's just going to be tough.
When I called to just double check what was going on, and what I was told was this is a directly related to the shipping cost.
And like my brother-in-law's in logistics. He's been dealing with that for a year. I'm not going to argue with you about that because.
I've never had a jump like this in road salt.
Well, yeah, I know what the shipping containers are doing, so I'm not surprised.
Mr. Brown, question for you. Under general supply 610, I don't see anything for window replacements there. Sorry.
We kind of put that, we put that in the same boat as mailbox.
Okay. Zeroed out. It's an inside joke.
Oh, as well.
I gathered.
Oh, well. Question on line 660.
Yeah.
The $10,000 increase for this year.
For vehicle
necessa-
maintenance.
Yes. How necessary is that, considering the fact that the salt number is going to go through the roof? Is that nice to have maintenance or must have maintenance?
Must have maintenance. I mean, you do oil changes and service on your vehicles at home. You know what I mean? These vehicles.
But why the 10K increase though?
Age of equipment. You know, we do have some newer equipment the past 3 years.
Right.
But we
I
also
thought that's what we were presented last year was, you know what, we're going to get these new plows so that way, you know what, they're cheaper, they're easier to maintain.
Warranty.
Yes.
Well, no, and I agree 100%. But you still have to remember the trucks that we do have out of the 10 pieces. You know, we've upgraded 2 in the past 2 years. We still have trucks that are 1999s and 2002s. You know, if we follow the CIP plan and replace these vehicles every 8 years, like the CIP plan, we wouldn't be in such a situation. Yeah, that number could come down. But when we have a 1999 International that we need to, you know, rust repair and paint and tires and transmissions, you know, it adds up.
What would happen if we retired one of those ancient vehicles?
Your roads wouldn't get plowed as well.
Meaning not as frequently, or that particular oldest piece of equipment can only do the job of that particular piece of equipment.
No,
Like, in other words, like, okay, we got 18, 24 inches. Look, if I don't keep the 1999 equipment, then at that point I can't move snow. Or is it just?
Well, the 99 is one of our larger vehicles. It is a 36,000 GVW. It has a wing, full 6-yard sander. So yeah, it is one of our main pieces of equipment.
Weren't we talking about using the newer vehicles to straight up replace?
We did. So the last vehicle we had, we came in, we retired one to the 2000.
Okay.
So that's down the yard.
Because the goal was to move a little bit away from the CDLs and go
And
more to the.
that's the whole idea of the new medium duty trucks. Yes. So we still have 3 though.
Mhm.
So we still have 3 CDL vehicles.
Yeah.
And you know, and one of them is a 2018, one's a 2012, and one's a 99. So you know, we're just in the same boat where you know it's a constant maintenance, and it's not cheap maintenance. You know, a tire for one of those is almost $200. You know?
I guess my point behind this is that I understood that we were being pitched, you know what, we got to get these smaller, newer vehicles,
Yeah.
and it'll help decrease our cost. And then meanwhile,
Yeah, but
we're still paying more maintenance on the older vehicles. Meanwhile, last year we invested in newer vehicles. So it's just, I'm never getting the cost savings that.
well, I mean, you won't until you get into a series where your vehicles aren't as old. You know what I mean? Like I said, I go back to the CIP plan. If we go by the CIP plan, you replace a vehicle every 8 years. You know, the police do it, other towns do it. You know, if we kept updating every 8 years, you wouldn't have vehicles that are, you know, 21 years old, 22 years old. I mean, you're more than welcome. Come on down. We'll take a look. I'll show you what we're doing. I'll show you the maintenance we're doing on them. I mean, I know you agree, but
I guess
but
overall,
anyway,
then, from a town perspective,
yeah.
how many fire vehicles and police vehicles do we have that are 1999 or earlier?
How many?
I don't expect you to know that, but the point is that, you know, look, there's all these CIP plans of, you know, we got to replace this many times, this many times, this many times. Are we actually looking at the overall picture and saying, you know what, just for the example, sorry, police, you can't get the new vehicle that you want because, you know what the town needs the most is the plow truck that's 1999. I just don't. I don't feel that there's a
I believe that's
strategy around.
That's what we're doing. We did that. So we purchased the new 5500 and we retired the 2000 orange truck.
Right.
And as we get new ones, we'll replace the older ones. And sooner or later, we're going to work up to the point where our 2012 is our oldest truck.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yes,
then
no, I completely understand what you're saying.
You're not going to see buying one truck reduce your maintenance by $10,000.
Right.
When you get to the point where your oldest vehicle is 8 years, 9 years old, then you'll see the reduction. Then it's just, you know, the regular service maintenance, not rust repair and welding.
Correct.
So
My point is, so I just recently heard that we've got 2 new police vehicles and a new, fire executive vehicle. Should we have actually, instead of spend the money on those 3, replace the old 1999 truck, and then at that point not see an increase of $10,000 in maintenance and potentially see that drop that by 5,000? I'm just looking at it in terms
I'd
of
be
from a
okay with
town
that,
as a
but I don't
whole.
think they would.
Do we
That's-
figure
that's above my
what
pay
is
grade.
the worst thing and get rid of what's the worst, regardless of what department it is?
I think that's more of a Troy and Board of Selectmen decision, rather than pitting each department against themselves, each other. But yeah,
That's a fair point.
it is. No, I'm not saying it's not. I was just looking to see like how much we paid for the plow truck, and at some point, how long would it take to pay itself off if we could reduce our costs by 10 grand?
Well, remember, they don't pay themselves off.
No, I think
They're a cost from the minute you pick them. They're a necessary evil.
that process, Andrew Cutter was part of it. We put together a capital improvements plan that actually lays out the replacement of fire engines and plow trucks and backhoes and front end loaders and police cruisers, and it's all in a capital improvements plan. I think it's on our website. But when we put it all together, the plan makes sense, but it's going to cost money to implement. And
I
So I
like
guess
the
the
idea
question
of a
is-
warrant article.
Is it a
Gonna cost
plan
money
or
to
is it
implement.
action? Because I look at it, okay, so
Plan.
you guys get together and put together a plan,
It's planned.
but then year after year after year, it's, oh, well, you know what? This department gets a new vehicle because they claim that they get a good deal on it. And this department says that they get a good deal. And then sooner or later, somebody doesn't look at it and go, okay, but the problem is you got old Ironsides over here that we got to get rid of. Like, how do we get this one off the books? Because maintenance wise, it's killing us.
The reality,
I don't care if you cut an extra 10K good deal on a particular vehicle. If now at this point I still got to pay 25,000 to maintain this old junk.
The problem, I think, is our budget's not set up correctly to handle that question. You need a capital, you need a vehicle replacement fund. When our fire trucks cost, what is it? Would you $700,000? We're gonna get 20 years out of it. From the moment you buy the first one, you should be starting to sock away 1/20th of the next cost, so that when that one finally needs to be replaced, you have the money set aside. We just don't do the setting aside until after the fact. We get killed. We pay interest to buy things instead of allowing interest to work in our favor by putting the money away to be used when we need it. So, I mean, it really requires an entire change in philosophy of how we budget it. But we're concerned that people see that big money number on the warrant articles and say, no, thank you. But
And, rolling the tax cap and whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
so,
but that's it's a plan, right? Because otherwise you would have seen a fire truck on last year's warrant articles and you didn't.
right.
Right. That was part of the plan that didn't happen.
But the reality is, yes, there is an annual cost for our trucks, and we should be preparing for that. But we are very reactive instead of proactive. And then we get stuck with these big bills because we didn't plan for them.
So, Mr. Brown, in the interest of time, right? I know we have an hour and 10 minutes left before hard stop at 9:30. Would you like to cover off on the block grant this year?
So the block grant, based on the feedback that we received, and I have an attached letter there, we're looking to restore the $200,000 this year. And we've put together a plan, 2022 road plan that you see, which includes using 200,000, but also is making the assumption that there'll be a warrant article for 200,000 and using some impact fees.
Now, I saw in the plan that Lock Mill is on there as well for next year.
Yes.
Yeah, Lock Mill's in tough shape.
Yeah. We this is if we're able to secure the funding, a very aggressive plan where we've been talking the last few years about trying to get out of the whole rebuild, the full depth reclamation, and you can see how now we're getting more into the 1.5 inch overlay, and it's working. The town's made a big investment over the past years and really tackling the roads that needed that full reconstruction. But with the St. Gobain, doing a lot of the paving up in the north end, we see ourselves really, covering a lot of territory.
The nice thing is you're in and out much quicker. I just remind you, start after 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I just don't know for Lock Mill. I mean, obviously that's in my neck of the woods, right? I just don't know how an overlay is sufficient for.
They'll mill a few parts of it, but for the purposes here, we call it a half-inch overlay. But we'll come in. There's a couple areas on Lock Mill that sink, like when you know, if you're jogging on the road or riding, you'll see areas that are just need to be totally removed. But we won't do that to the full length of the road.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Let's see. Let's open it up for questions on road maintenance. Additional questions, I should say. 4312. Mr. Hayes, giving you an opportunity.
Thanks for the opportunity, but no questions.
All right. Those in the room? All right. We'll close it and move into everyone's favorite, street lighting, 4316.
Well, you know what?
My question on this
think-
one, it may not, obviously it was mentioned through Mr. Leary's update on the conversion to LED, which is great. How are we paying for that conversion? Right. What we're seeing here is the estimated cost of the electricity usage, but how are we actually paying for the conversion of the LED lights?
So if you want, I can answer that.
Sure.
I would love you to.
So the plan is we've recently have gone out to a company that is just the leader in changing out streetlights in New Hampshire and Maine. Fantastic company, highly recommended, and so far our interaction has been great. Based on the presentation they provided to the Board of Selectmen Monday night, we honestly believe that we can get the conversion in place by the first of the year, which should result in about $7,500 in savings. So what I did was I saved myself a little bit, gave myself a little wiggle room. But the plan is to have the conversion done before the end of December. Maybe it spills into January, February, possibly. But we would use 2021 operating budget funds.
That's when you see that we're budgeting 13.4 and you're saying 7,500, that's a percentage wise, that's a huge savings.
So with a rebate that that is pretty much a guarantee from Eversource, the project is going to the net cost is $17,000 to do the conversion. The lights are guaranteed or warranted for 10 years, but there's a full expectation that we're going to get 20 years of life out of these
Payback
bulbs.
in 2.5 years.
Yeah, and the payback return on your investment is estimated at 2.33 years. Wow! So this is just, and I know the budget committee every single year I sat here and you've asked for this and you've asked for this, but, just didn't have the connection with the right companies and the technology just changed so much in the last couple of years. They've got it, so I think it's great news.
Has the company that's proposed this shown testimonials with actual towns showing the savings, or is this a salesperson pitching it, and then at that point we're going to be disappointed next year when we look at it and don't get the full 7,500?
They've listed a tremendous amount of towns in the state, but one of the towns that they're just finishing up is the town of Hudson. So I think if you drive through Hudson, you'll start to see. I believe there's lights in place, and
But they
you're
haven't
getting
been
an
able to
idea of
provide
what's
to you a before and after. Town was paying $50,000 in electricity costs. After the conversion, here's a bill showing that it's only 25.
I can't say that I've
There's some of that in that.
reached out and checked, but there is a pretty comprehensive proposal here for you.
There's some of that in that proposal where they've got references from towns that are pretty detailed and actually get into cost savings in that as well. I'm reading through, like Randolph, Maine right now has a very specific, what they've saved over the course of time in here.
And they gave us an exact number, or at least a good estimate from the town itself, not some salesperson that.
Yeah,
says,
all of these
saved
are
Randolph
X amount of
Uh-huh.
front.
Suggesting salespeople are not.
I am a salesperson. So it's okay. I can beat up on myself.
Sales. No, these are all customer references that have very detailed success stories associated with data.
All right. Questions on street lighting? Mr. Hayes?
No, it sounds good. I'm just going to say, what Mr. Taylor said is basically trust but verify just to make sure there's real savings. That work has been done. We're good.
All right. Thank you very much. Shifting gears into accounting, please. 4150. And that decrease of $2,048, it looks like.
Yeah, and this, there's some increases and decreases throughout the budget, but what's really helping with the bottom line decrease here is another story of a change in our health insurance enrollment by one of the employees. I don't know what that means. Maybe that story is meaning, I continue to state that. Maybe it means our staff's getting older and the kids are getting older and moving out of the house.
It's incredible how much of a difference that makes.
It really is. We'll open it up for questions on 4150. Mr. Hayes?
No questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Reevaluation of property, 4152.
So last year we entered into a new contract with Avatar Assessing. It's a multi-year contract, takes us out to 2025, which will be the year of our update. So you can see that there's really nothing changing here except for the actually, I think we know that this software increase is going to happen.
Yeah.
But $214 increase in the software. Also, it's just to remind you that when you look back in 2020, we were raising about $55,000 in this line. We've since created, last year was our first year, we created a capital reserve fund or expendable fund where we're going to put $25,000 aside every single year. So when we hit 2025, we should have enough money to cover the cost of the update. I don't have any control over, skyrocketing
Carrie's
labor and
point
stuff,
earlier,
but
right?
but we should have
Budget.
100,000 should be pretty much in the ballpark, but give or take 10 grand.
Questions on 4152 assessing?
Nope. Other than I'm sure it's going to hurt.
Mr. Hayes, questions?
No questions.
All right, let's shift gears. 4130, Board of Selectmen.
Couple changes in this one here. So the Board of Selectmen, the bottom line is actually up $8,769. You see the town administrator's salary. That's a contract. That's a fixed price of 2% increase. So that's your one increase there of $2,142. But really, along with that salary increase and down at line number 344, clerical support, that's where you see a large increase. And there's a couple of things going on as we sat here today. The board had consolidated our record, our minute taking. So, and we've taken on the rec commission. So that resulted in, we now have one person under a contract. It's a set, monthly fee that does the Board of Selectmen's meeting minutes, the budget committee, and the recreation commission. In addition to that, we have the zoning board of adjustment, which, in a few years ago, maybe just a year ago, that we had someone, a member of the ZBA was actually taking minutes. And a couple of years ago, that changed where we've had to bring on staff to provide that service. So as of right now, we've have with the resignation of the chairman, Chairman Riley was on the zoning board of adjustment for, I think, 18 years, 20 years. He did a tremendous amount of the clerical work that's involved in the zoning board of adjustment, which is preparing the legal notices, mailing the legal notices, going to the post office to get the certified mail. He did all of that. And with his sudden, resignation, retirement, we had to fill that void. So we're still working on trying to address that. As of right now, that work is being contracted out, but we are looking at bringing some of that cost in-house. So
I had a couple questions on that. In the past, we had 6 meetings a year, and now we're at 10.
The zoning board of adjustment has been extremely busy, and again, it's being driven by people putting pools in, putting additions on, putting up garages, and even our commercial businesses that we've seen develop in town, that they've needed to have special exceptions and variances to be able to build near a wetland or a certain district. The activity is just really.
So are any of those fees recoverable?
They are recoverable on, I'm not saying 100%.
No, but
on the revenue side, we do budget some offsetting fees. Those fees, I wouldn't say for taking the meeting minutes, but for the advertising costs, mailing costs, and stuff like that.
right. I just saying we went from like $1,000 to $3,000. So I mean, that's not a small increase for the zoning board. That's all. Before we had 6 meetings at 150, and now we've got 10 at 300. So that's a big increase. And then that's just not even factoring in the massive increase for the budget, Board of Selectmen budget and recreation, which apparently is a contract, but even that's a significant increase over what we paid last year. So, you know, I've already highlighted it yellow because I'm like, whoa. So the $300 is driven by, that's the market value of that work, or like,
Well, it's a combination of the time spent, observing the meeting and taking the notes and then transcribing the meeting minutes, but also doing some of the clerical work that Mr. Riley, the chairman, used to do.
I mean, I guess it is what it is right now, but I guess if there's a way to figure out if there's some of that clerical work that could be brought in-house to relieve the strain from this budget. I mean,
I think Mr. Sullivan, our minute taker, is going to get his.
That's a different one. That's the other part. The ZBA, I think, is a different one.
No, it's in the 9,500, right?
There's 2 parts of this one. There's the
Right.
90.
So-
Oh yeah, Matt
but-
does not do the zoning board of adjustment.
Right.
So.
But as a part of this line, there's also the 9,500,
Yep.
right? Which is part of our minutes.
Yep.
Right.
So keep our
And,
meeting short.
Well, yeah. I think,
Well, it doesn't matter now, right?
there's
It's
a
a
message
contract.
here,
Well, that's true. At this point, hey,
All night.
we'll go back to our 11 o'clock meetings. We're all good.
Yep.
No, I think he does a great job. That's when you see the increase, it's not unsubstantial. That's.
Yep.
But
we did. I want to say the recreation.
We took out of their budget.
So on the rec, I forgot to mention that on the rec side, there was an amount that was carried for meeting minutes,
okay.
and that was zeroed out and brought in here.
Okay. All right.
So on the additional meetings, you had said that there's a lot more people doing items. Did they need to go to 10 meetings because they have a certain time restraint that they can't get it done in 6 meetings?
Yeah. So the zoning board of adjustments, very tricky. They meet once a month, and the timing of an application for a variance or special exception, the board has to act within a certain number of days upon receipt of that application. Then you've got the timing of the legal notices in the paper and posting on town, bulletin boards. So it's not like where you can let's allow 6 cases to build up and we'll deal with those on a quarterly basis. They're very time sensitive, which makes sense because if you were looking to put an in-ground pool in and you purchased the pool in April and you're looking for an install in June, you don't want, you're going to want to come in and get that variance because you don't know if it's approved. You want to get it approved. And typically the turnaround time is, I want to say 30 to 45 days.
Now, did that timing change since the time that they had 6 meetings to the time that they
Absolutely
had 10
not.
meetings?
No.
So, I mean, if they were able to meet that time requirement with having 6 meetings, I guess I'm still trying to wrap my mind around, why do we have to go to 10 meetings? Is it because then at that point there's a line out the door? If that's the case for the 6 meetings, well, then at that point,
I think
cut them down to, you've got 10 minutes to present.
No,
I've seen the school board do it. You get so many people, you say, you get time limit.
I don't think I'm explaining it right. So the zoning board of adjustment meets once per month. And so you've got applications always in process. And so they don't have, they can't just schedule them to say, okay, we're going to just consolidate and have 6 cases coming in June. You're going to have someone coming in, and you're always going to have July, August. They just keep coming in. It's like a court. I mean, they're really sort of a semi-judicial board, and everything's linked to state law and there's certain timing that we have to act.
So when it was 6 meetings per year, it was just, there was no application?
Well, I wouldn't get hung up on that. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here saying, you know, if I could have said, you know what, the zoning board of adjustment is scheduled to meet 12 meetings per year. It costs $300 to meet. I don't think they're going to meet 12 times. I think they're going to meet 10.
Because there
Maybe they
was
meet 8.
not enough applications.
It's all driven by applications.
Right, so
And
the
from what
6
I've seen
meeting,
right now, you know,
less
there's
applications.
just constant variance for this, variance for that, and it doesn't seem to stop. A few years ago, you know, the activity wasn't that great.
Right, so less applications, meaning. they
Less
just wouldn't meet.
application, less
Right.
meetings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right, questions on Board of Selectmen 4130. Additional questions.
So does that clerical support also include the fees for postings and postage and things like that?
So she's working with the chair.
Okay.
And so they, you know, and what they do is developing the agenda. So the zoning board of adjustments is a little different because there's these kind of a technical letter that's drafted to send out to the abutters. So taking the application and converting that into the abutter notification, putting together the legal advertisement that's been posted and put in the newspaper and coordinating with the newspaper, the meeting minutes, and actually doing the certified mails,
Right.
Doing all that work to get the certified mails together and getting them to the post office,
Mhm.
and coordinating it all so that we don't miss a deadline. And
So that's
cause-
all included under
That's
this
all
one line?
included, yeah.
Okay.
And so it's, Mr. Riley used to do all of that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Hayes?
No questions.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll shift gears into legal expenses 4153.
So as you can see, this is actually, we're just doing a 3-year average here. And so we're projecting just a small decrease of $279. I hate budgeting 29,721, but I just want to be consistent, and you'll see throughout the budget, I've done 3-year averages on
We've
items that
we've seen a lot of whole round numbers, and now I don't.
I wanted to put 30,000 there, but I said, no, be consistent, stick to your 3-year average, because I don't know what legal is going to cost, but all I can do is look at what's happened in the last 3 years and also know what's coming, you know, in 2022. I don't see our legal demand, legal services changing in 2022. So looking at the past, I think is a good number.
So where do we stand on my favorite part of this budget? Which is the PFOA. Are we finally settled on that?
That's a great question for a
Well,
Board of
that's-
Selectmen meeting.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say we are, but I mean, as you can see, the proposal for, you know, $30,000 in legal fees, pretty much at this point in time, the board is just dealing with, we've never went forward and filed a formal lawsuit.
So that money that we left in there to cover PFOA was just absorbed into the budget. It wasn't used for that purpose.
We used a couple of years ago when we had some funds, I believe, for the PFOA. Yeah, we used.
So
this was like 3 years ago when they were, you know, ripping and tearing up the north end of town.
We were spending 45. So I remember sitting here saying, we're going to spend $1 million and recover 50 grand. And now we're going to spend a ton of money and recover nothing. That's awesome.
All right. Any questions on legal expenses 4153?
Quick question, as far as the way that the billing's set up, it looks like we're about a third into the budgeted amount so far as actuals. Is there a lot of weighted Q4 type bills that are for annual services that we should expect, or is this kind of just going to continue through a regular?
We will tend to, our billing will probably increase the last quarter. I believe will increase because we'll be working on warrant articles. We've got some legal issues that I know that are happening. So yeah, I can see wrapping up this year, the last quarter.
So expect the Q4 is going
I'm not
to
going to say a big jump.
is likely going to exceed the pace of $3,500 a
Yeah.
quarter.
Oh yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
So I just can't get past this. So I'm really upset about this. And we've been tracking these funds because we're going to get them recovered. Do we know how much we've spent on the PFOAs over the course of this?
Can we keep it to the legal expense budget?
Well, it's a financial impact on the budget. The taxpayers have a right to know how much we've spent.
And they can watch
Right,
a
On legal
BOS
services?
meeting, and
Select board
this is
meeting.
not budget committee
It
business.
has a budget. It's a number impact. I'd be curious to know from the budget expenses how much we've spent. It's
Legal.
absolutely
Oh yeah.
relevant.
No, we
Yes.
we can generate
That'd be
that.
awesome.
We
Thank
track it. We created a line item for legal
Yeah.
costs for a PFOA.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, Mr. Hayes.
No questions.
Thank you, sir. Welfare vendor payments 4445.2.
I don't think there's. I think it's still there, probably because it is required, from the Department of Revenue Administration. But as you know, we've created an expendable trust fund for this line item.
How's that doing?
Worked out really good. So we have $10,000 that we established the fund. I don't think we've spent $1 out of it. So
That was a wonderful idea, wasn't it?
who
I'm
came
glad
up with that idea?
you had a wonderful idea. I really appreciated it. So
All right.
I'm glad that that's working out and that we don't have to change. That's good to hear.
Patriotic purposes 4583.
No increase here. This is primarily, this is all for the Memorial Day celebration. Obviously, there's some of the flags that we have along 3A this year. We haven't spent a lot of money because of COVID. Those celebrations were really reduced. So we'll be looking this year before we close out the budget, to purchase new flags and probably use some of these funds next year.
I was going to say some of those
Start
flags are pretty
replacing.
tired.
Yeah.
The one at Pinecrest and
They're
that was just taken down recently. but-
Yeah, I think we got 3 years out of them.
They look
So
great.
when they're
so-
along the highway like that and out there in the sun and the
Yeah, yeah.
exhaust fumes and wind and rain, they're going to be a constant replacement item.
Questions? Patriotic purposes. Mr. Hayes?
No questions.
Thank you, sir. Debt service 4711.
I think it says 4723 in the spreadsheet.
Okay, 4723. On the agenda, it says 4711.
I think that used to be the old number. Or you dropped down.
I see two numbers on this budget. I see 4711 and 4723. So
Yeah.
it's one of the two.
Yeah. You know what? I think that number was wrong last year too. I got to get that for you.
4711.
But so your debt service is broken up into two line items. It shows your principal and your interest. This is obviously for the fire station bond.
Yep.
In 2022, we'll be making the fourth payment on that bond. So 130,000 will be in principal, and $132,188 will be in interest, for a bottom line payment of $262,189.
Okay. Any questions on debt service?
It's a big hit.
Mr. Hayes?
No questions.
Okay. That wraps up our general or budget review for this evening. All right, we have a list of accounts scheduled for next week, next Thursday, October 7th as well, where we'll continue the fun. Any closing remarks or final questions for Town Administrator Brown?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, so the only takeaway I think is we'll work on getting an accounting of the PFOA funds that have been spent throughout the years since it started. And
The recycle center hours.
and
Just,
the recycling hours. Yeah.
yep, thank you.
And again, if you have any questions, get them out there through your chairman and try to give us as much advance notice as possible. And we'll do our best to get the information back to you as quick as possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
We appreciate you coming.
Absolutely. Thank you to the department heads. I know Mr. Brown was here as well for a while, so appreciate that. As well as the tax collector. So shifting gears and closing town business, we'll move into the school. I know we had an update last week, so not sure if anything.
Yeah, we haven't had a meeting. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's perfect. Okay.
Everything's good.
All right, excellent. We'll move into member input, new business.
It's good.
As far as I know, everything's fine.
Mr. Hayes, anything?
No additional.
Okay.
Thank you, Troy.
We'll close member input and move into our second public input this evening.
Oh, I do. I forgot.
You
Yeah.
All right, I don't see any other public input. We'll close public input and move into adjournment.
So made.
We have a motion by Ms. Douglas.
Second.
A second by Ms. Harrison. We'll do a roll call vote, please. Mr. Sun,
Yes.
Ms. Harrison.
Yes, please.
Mr. Leary. I am an aye.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Taylor's a yes.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens is a yes. Mr. Barker's a yes. And Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Yes. We are adjourned 9:00. Next meeting is next Thursday, October 7th. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Two.